podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to No Question About That. This is the midweek pod looking back on Arsenal 2, United 0 with Wayne. How's it going, Wayne?
Yeah, pretty miserable today. It's not a good feeling. You would have thought with a decade's worth of experience that we'd get used to these kind of miserable defeats, especially because it's been so long since we've won one of these big games away from home. But still grumpy.
Yeah, particularly annoying. Well, there's two parts of this annoying. Arsenal fans are just awful, universally. I mean, I've got some mates who are Arsenal fans, and they're fine when they're not talking about Arsenal. But as soon as they get onto Arsenal, they're just the whingiest, complainiest bunch of wankers on the planet. And then they've got this horrendous anthem to start off the games now. Yeah. North London forever. Just the cringiest, I'm embarrassed for them. I had to watch the game through my hands. That's how embarrassed I was for them.
It was bad.
It's so bad. It's just so bad. Just have some self-respect, people. Love of God.
I say this as someone who's not a big fan of the Country Roads anthem that we started doing at Old Trafford, trying to recreate a You'll Never Walk Alone kind of thing. I think these kind of things should be natural, and at least that's a long-standing United anthem. I have no association with knowing this with Arsenal, but it sounded bloody ridiculous. And I'm in such a grumpy mood that I would say that as a thing to complain about them with anyway, because, I mean, it was such a nonsense thing. And everyone's talking about the atmosphere. There's no atmosphere there. He's renowned as a place for not having atmosphere.
Well, exactly. It was like that at the Highbury Library as well. Yeah. I used to, for a time, I lived within like a stone's throw of Highbury many years ago for about a year. And even when the games were on, you could barely hear a thing. I mean, you noticed when a goal went in, but that was about it. It's always been that way. They're too busy eating their quinoa and prawn sandwiches, aren't they? All right. Talking of quinoa, someone posted on Blue Sky, which made me laugh, called them the Quinoa Dons or Quinoa Wimbledon. Because, I mean, it basically was, wasn't it? It's amazing. He was held up, Mikel Arteta, as some kind of disciple of Pep, the second coming. But he's the second coming of Sam Allardyce. It's be extremely secure at the back, 4 big lads across the back and a couple sitting in front. And then just this expertise on set pieces. And even with the set pieces and the corners, and we can talk about United's failings there because they didn't know how to defend this. Hanging it under the crossbar while blocking the goalkeeper was what Wimbledon used to do in the 80s. And Watford and Stoke and Bolton and Cambridge under John Beck. I mean, this is like put pressure on the keeper, hang it right under the crossbar and see what happens on the second balls. This is not new. And there's like this unbelievable wank fest about how magical and how they've reinvented football. Fuck off. Yeah. No way. Sorry, I'm getting squeaky because I'm annoyed.
No, I think you're well within your rights, especially because Arsenal were for a long period of time, the fans were like, oh, that's the way to stop us playing. And like they were so anti it, and that, they become what they hate. And also this idea that they always, I mean, we all joke about, Liverpool inventing stuff, but Arsenal are up there for like reinventions, right? That they introduced diet into football, and they introduced like it's so ridiculous.
Under Wenger,
we all became athletes under our, which to be fair, he had a big part in that. But all it's like passing football came to England because of Wenger. No, he didn't. It's so much nonsense. And now this, I mean, cards on the table. That's a very effective set piece, and they won the game fair and square. And even without that, I mean, the XGs, I don't think the XG minus the corners tells a lot. But United didn't create anything to be coming away from that game complaining about losing it. But and I'm not complaining about that as a tactic of winning the game, but just at least own it. I mean, the disappointing thing for me is that the way that they make it sound is like it's unplayable. It's not unplayable. It's just
not at all.
And United were practicing for it in the build-up. So what are they actually practicing now to watch them do it? Because they did look like scoring every single time they had a corner, and that was the issue.
Did. I switched between Sky Sports or TNT or NBC coverage, depending on what I feel like at the time. I mean, it's obviously easiest since I'm in the States to watch the NBC coverage, and they had Lee Dixon on this time, who, like, he's a former Arsenal player, played his whole career at Arsenal. He's an Arsenal fan. That's all right. I actually don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
Just own that one. I'm much more irritated by Gary Neville's like over extreme correction. But he was like pretending that this is something brand new and they've reinvented football by learning how to take a corner kick. They just hang it under the crossbar. That is not new. They all stand at the back post and then break forward. And United didn't do two things. One, they marked zonally. Go man to man with that one.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, this was the tactic previously. Block and then leave 2 or 3 players up front.
Yeah.
Take a risk on that one, because then they have to leave players back, right?
Yeah.
Because they can't take the risk that the second ball will come out. And like, look at the late in the game, Saka hit a flat one and it was cleared by the first man, and the second ball was won by United, and we fluffed the break because Josh Xerxes overhit the pass to Marcus Rashford, right?
Yeah.
But if you'd left 3 or maybe even 4 players up front at that point, you'd have had a really good chance of a break, and Arsenal would have had to think differently about how they do their corner routine. So that's my only complaint about United and how they defended it. They probably should have gone to a man-to-man, and they probably should have changed it up. And instead, what they did was just like replay the whole thing over and over again. Arsenal are very effective at getting into the corners and going on the outside. And Ruben Amorim mentioned this, and Arteta got all annoyed with his tied trousers, his little cock, saying they try to go on the outside to win the corner. I mean, I think he's probably right in the analysis, right? They do not, like, those wide players do that quite often. They're quite happy to win the corners because it's a very effective tactic for them. Yeah. And there are many ways to skin a cat, many ways to win a football match. I think the only annoying thing is if you pretend it's some brand new thing you've invented, or like there's some kind of purity test, which Arsenal fans used to have, that there's a right way to play football and a wrong way to play football. And the wrong way to play football is to knock it into the corners and then lump it into the box for the big man, and they become that side, right? So fine, just own that one. That's what they do. They're very effective about it. They're brilliant defensively, absolutely brilliant. They hardly ever give up chances. They completely snuffed United out. If you look at all the detailed stats, if you look at the mark stats data, it does the advanced stuff on that. United, it's not just United barely created a chance. They barely got into the final third. Only 6 passes into the box. So they completely snuffed United out. And that was brilliant. And they deserved the win. It's just they got the goals in this kind of fashion, which was very old-fashioned. The other thing I should say, while I'm moaning about stuff, pushes on Rasmus Højlund on both the goals, like shoving the back very clearly. And you're just allowed to do that at a corner. And eventually the ref, who's like 12 years old, came and started talking to people. But both goals, he takes a big shove in the back. Yeah. And I guess at the Emirates, Rasmus is not allowed to shove, but he's allowed to be shoved.
Well, I'll give you a couple of thoughts on those points you just made. The first is the tactic itself, and just going back to the quality of it. I think I feel like a broken record sometimes on a lot of issues, but the quality of the league being one, that they are so reliant on this tactic at the moment, and it seems to be by far their most effective way of scoring goals. I would probably say it accounts for over half of their goal threat at the moment, which is quite a significant thing, especially in big games. And for them to be towards the top of the table, I mean, they were there or thereabouts last season anyway. But for that tactic to be the dominant one, just again, it just goes to prove how poor the league is this season. Second point is the suicidal nature of it. He said that Arsenal always like go for them, but we helped them yesterday. I'm very loath to go there with this point. First of all, because people are getting on the backs of the players anyway. First of all, I'll just come back on the Højlund push one, because there's a different point I want to make. The Højlund push, I don't think it helped him that he was so weak in general play. where he's so easily knocked off the ball, it doesn't make him look better when he's brushed aside easily for the. I agree with you that I think there was a push in there, but I don't think because of the fact he's so weak in his general play, it looks easy to push around. He's a very.
He should just go down.
Yeah,
he should have gone down.
But
100% that's called as a foul if he falls over.
So the major point I wanted to make really about the concession of the corners is that time after time, it's not just about how you deal with the corners; it's about giving them away in the first place. And I'm cautious to criticise this because I've seen a lot of people piling in on Rashford already for the mistake for the second goal. Really, and
he's trying to dribble out, so it is a mistake.
Exactly. This is the thing, right? It's about, again, we said earlier, ownership of stuff. So that's ownership of a mistake. You've tried something silly, and it has been costly. We know that it's cost us the second goal. There's no need to it's not directly led to it, but it's cost us a scenario where we're likely to concede. But it's not only him who did that. Onana did something earlier on as well. Can you remember there was a famous, and it might have even been Arsenal. No, it wasn't Arsenal, but there was a famous highlight of a Stoke game from years ago where the goalkeeper, it might have been Chelsea actually, where the goalkeeper gets the ball and he's a bit panicked. He doesn't know what to do. So because he's scared of the throw-in, he just turns and boots it out for the corner. Well, Onana did that, but he kicked it out for the corner. He could have kicked it anywhere, but he panicked and kicked it behind. So that was 2 corners that we gave away needlessly. And also, it wasn't just that. I mean, they were, like you said, they were playing for it. Like, they'd hit a shot through bodies, not even open for a goal, open for the deflection that it got, because it was I think Martinelli did it, and it was such a weak shot that it just, obviously, it was going to go wide anyway, but it was open for the deflection, because the deflection's the goal for it. So, yeah, I don't want to get on Rashford or Onana's back for the silly concession of corners, but I do think, like, that is a critical failing, right? It's you bring on a player into a game of football. You've seen what's happening in the game of football. All the pre-match preparation, all the pre-match talk was about the corners. The actual physical preparation that you were doing before the game was all centered around their set-piece threat. And the first thing that you do is you faffing around in the corner and you make such a silly miscontrolling mistake, especially in the conditions as well. In the conditions, he knew all of those things that were going on, and he gave the corner away.
Yeah, it's a mistake. It's a mistake. People make mistakes in football games, so I don't like the nature of the pylon that happens with Marcus Rashford after almost anything he does. I mean, I think I know where it's been driven from, but now it's kind of taken its own form, and there are a lot of players over the last 18 months that have been in very bad form and played very badly. Marcus is one of them. But every time he makes a mistake, there's a hysterical reaction to it online. And clearly, you should have just booted that one out rather than tried to dribble it out. Of course, if he dribbled out and United had achieved the breakaway from there and kept possession, then that would have been much better. Very frustrating all round. That's a lot of mistakes we made. But what do you think about the team to start with? Because I think it probably surprised everyone that Tyrone Malacia was in at left wing back and Dalot over on the right, and it looked a bit more conservative than perhaps many of us thought, given that Ahmad's been playing so well. Like, how do you feel about that? And everyone across the back 5 moved around. Harry Maguire in the middle, Mazraoui on the left, De Ligt on the right.
Yeah, my first thought when I saw the team sheet was that it looked like it was going to be Maguire on the left and Malacia on the left as well. So my first thought was quite fearful, because I thought putting 2 rusty players in an area where Arsenal have had all their joy in recent weeks, with Saka and Odegaard coming back. Odegaard obviously being out and then coming back. That's where the performances have picked up, and Saka playing so well of late. So I was worried about that. As it turned out, it didn't need to be, because I think in general play, I think they defended quite well. Didn't really give Arsenal a lot in open play. So from that aspect, I can't complain. So in theory, I can't complain with much of the team selection, because in open play, we're not as good as Arsenal at the moment, and we're a way off, so couldn't really complain there. However, I did have a bit of a grumble, and I posted about it on socials before, and I think when I saw the team, because I don't normally do that, but I did for some reason, and I had a lot of people piling on me for my negativity about this. And where I was feeling negative was this balance between, this is I've said this before, whenever you change a manager, the thing you've got to be wary of is everyone gets a clean slate. And in that respect, sometimes you see things that you as a fan are used to seeing, but the manager's not used to seeing. So you might see a lot of the same mistakes made. Now, in that respect, I don't know really what I meant by that, other than we know that Maguire's not a really top defender. Having said that, he was probably one of the best players yesterday. My point being that you have a balance of giving players a chance and then putting up a set up for the future and one that's designed to get results for games. And it seemed to me as if there was almost an acceptance that we didn't have, you know what I mean? Like, there was a tactical setup to try and win a game of football, and that didn't look like it was a tactical setup to try and win a football. It was a game of football. I'm not saying it was a tactical setup saying we're going to lose the game or accepting that. What I mean was, like, when I think I've made this point before with Ole, when Ole first came, when he was manager, we played Arsenal quite early on in the cup, and we rotated. I think Lukaku played wide right and Sanchez played somewhat in a different position. And so it was unusual, but it was a setup. It was a tactical setup designed to win the game, and we won. And Amorim beforehand, he was talking about this is part of a process. We're going to lose some games. That he's going to look unfamiliar, and we'll get found out, which was the phrase that he used. But there's a thought, isn't there? Really, is that necessary? Do we not know enough to know that some things like this aren't necessary? Now, I'm saying this on the basis of, because you asked me a question about what I thought about the selection. I cannot accept that my deeper fears about the way that we selected the side were wrong, because I don't think that any other selection would have done much better a job, considering the way that we lost the game and the way that United are generally quite timid in those big away games. So that is an attitude for the squad at large, rather than the selection that was made yesterday. So in a weird kind of way, I'm saying that I didn't like the team, but I didn't mind the performance, and I don't think that another team could have done, team from the selection that we've got could have done much better. However, if we had gone with a stronger side, with, like you said, Bruno playing in one of the front three, maybe we could have. Maybe we would have looked a little bit more bolder up front. I don't really know, Ed, because it's a weird conclusion a weird conclusion. There's no even conclusion to that. It's just a stream of consciousness that makes me think, I don't think it was the right thing to do. I don't necessarily think it cost us the game in the way that I thought it would beforehand, but I don't think we ever had any chance of winning the game. And I think that was underlined by the choices that we took at the start of the game. What did you think of it?
Well, I guess I'm a little surprised, given that Ahmad has been so effective, that he didn't play. I thought that might be the out a lot of the time. And I was a little surprised that Bruno played in central midfield. He lost a couple of balls in deep areas early on, which caused problems for United. It wasn't a pattern or anything like that, actually. I mean, he did fine there. I don't like him getting the ball off the keeper. It's not where he causes the most problems. I mean, you lose all that chance creation if he's that deep. Yeah. So there are challenges there. I'm surprised that no one yet has tried it the other way around, with Bruno further forward and Mount at 8. No one seems to actually want to do that. Maybe there's a reason I can't see. On the back line, I was a bit worried that everyone had shuffled around, but it worked fine, because Danish has said on the tactics pod previously that you get your passers in those. Well, Amorim likes his best passers in those wide areas, so I think that's why I guess he put Harry Maguire in the centre, because he just takes a long time to make those passes. Not sure exactly. I mean, if you look at the data, Harry Maguire's progressive passing looks really good, but in reality, it's really slow. So I guess I can see why he decided to do certain things, but I wasn't sure that I liked any of it.
We're just having a storm in Manchester.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I can silence that bit. So, it was unfamiliar to all of us, wasn't it? I mean, it's unfamiliar getting used to the three at the back to start with. And then, given that everyone had moved around, that was just all a little bit weird. Yeah. But United were good. The structure looked really clear in that first half. Hardly any pressure from Arsenal. They looked very secure defensively. They stopped Arsenal getting into those deep areas. The second half looked a bit different. And I'm not going to say that it was anything to do with the changes. Like, Ahmad came on, Tyrone Malacia went off. Not sure what happened there. He couldn't make it through the half. He got a couple of knocks, didn't he? Maybe they're just being careful. I don't know whether Ahmad coming in changed that or Arsenal just stepped it up a little bit, but there was more pressure from Arsenal in the second half than in the first. Not that they really create anything from open play anyway, hardly anything.
No, exactly. That was the thing. I mean, Ahmad, again, I'm with you that, you would expect of him to stop. But this is what I'm talking about. The line somewhere has to be drawn about players on form and interrupting that run for the pursuit of whatever he's trying to achieve with giving everyone
Well, he
a
has
chance.
talked about this, hasn't he? He did say something along the lines, I think we'll see a more settled side. He's used 20 players, 21, I think it is, in these 4 games. So that's a lot. And you can't rotate 6 players every game, I don't think. Or maybe he thinks he can, I'm not sure. But he seemed to suggest that he wouldn't do that.
No.
So at some point, maybe we will. Or maybe not. Who knows?
Well, the value of, again, to draw a comparison to previous management, I think I might have said this on the last pod, with Ten Hag, was keeping the same side. That's what built the momentum and decent-ish performances between the World Cup and winning the League Cup. We said there's a transition of players, so it's not really the same kind of squad now because it's a different manager and they've all got fresh slates from that respect. So I don't mind the approach so much. I don't think there's anything massively to be gained in the sort of value of consistency of an 11 in these first few games. I see the value in what he's doing. I just think that there's a balancing act of knowing we knew and he must have known that team wasn't a proactive team set up to take the game to Arsenal. Maybe you thought no combination of players can do that based on the threat that they've got. But then I think that if you're going to do that, then you pick a team tactically set for the problems that you're going to face. And in that regard, then you would say, well, pick a team who were best equipped to deal with them at set pieces. Can you say that we were that at any point? No, because I think really when you're talking about zonal marking, that's not a plan. It's, you know what I mean? It's a plan in the personal individual qualities of the players, but it's not a statistical, strategic, tactical plan. There's nothing out there that's saying you're marking this player because you're running onto the ball from this direction because that's the way that player runs, all those kind of things. Like you said, they've had that plan long enough now from this corner, maybe just a few weeks, but at least I don't think that's like innovational, right? So you've looked at that. We've all seen teams do that before. It's like a Stoke rush. We've seen that done before. So what you would say is, what's the usual plan that's you deployed to stop that? And like you said, it's the block and having players stood in different areas. Now that seems like the obvious one, but I don't know what it is. And it's not just United. It's a cyclical thing, like everything is in football. You have the few weeks of panic before the old tactic comes out to stop it again. Do you know what I mean? All these things are being deployed at some point. So my point was that the team that he selected didn't have it wasn't set up to do that either. So it wasn't set up to do the things that would stop them in the most effective way or impose ourselves in the most effective way. It just seemed a team that said, you haven't had enough minutes yet, so you're going to get more minutes in this game. Which I think
it might well have been that. Yeah. I mean, it did feel a little bit like that. He didn't exactly say that, but it does feel a little bit like he wants to see every player in different scenarios, which is playing pre-season in the middle of the season with the run we've got in December with all these difficult away games is an interesting approach to it. Yeah. Brave, I would say, because you don't really want to start off your time at United with all these good vibes with a whole bunch of losses. But hey, we'll see whether that happens. I got some heat last week for not completing thoughts and being superficial in our analysis. It started off like someone posted something like, you guys have a half-baked thought about Josh Zirkzee, you just written him off. I was like, no, we just have a different opinion than you. And it descended from there as it does on the internet. But my thoughts on Amorim's tactical approach are half-baked. And not because I think he's half-baked, but it's in development. He's trying to work out what's going to work in the system he prefers with the players he's now got at United. And there's a little bit of experimentation going along. I mean, it didn't work out perfectly. The structure worked, as we said, pretty well, right? It stopped open play chances. If you were going to want to be better at set pieces, I think there's different things you could have done. And on the personnel, where obviously Casemiro's great in the air, and we probably missed him from that point of view. I guess he wanted to try the Mount Bruno thing again, and we could have done with Scott McTominay in there, who's great in the air as well. But sadly, he's off playing in Italy. So the little tweaks. I haven't got too many moans. I mean, it's just annoying, honestly, to lose to Chateau Burnley, like Waitrose Wanderers.
Well, that's a good one. That is a good one. Do you know, there is, I don't want to keep giving this tactic more credence and airtime than we really should, because it's such a rudimentary way of winning a football match. But it is a way of winning a football match nonetheless. But there is something you said that's more salient than we've talked about so far. I think you said it on Twitter about the potency of this tactic to instigate fouls, that you see them much more commonly in this tactic, but because it's so much of a sort of rugby technique and it's everywhere, it's very difficult for a referee to call it. So whereas I'm actually on the fence with the Ireland thing, saying I think he was too weak in the general play, that made him look poor in that moment. But if that's a static play, static set piece, then fouls get blown all the time. But if you've got players running around, it's more mobile and dynamic. Collisions and interactions with players happen all the time. And I think it's the classic example. It's very, very different in execution. But I'm talking about Manchester City's Guardiola's really. He's the one who introduced this, the cynical blocking of the midfielders, where they would patternize it. So 4 or 5 midfielders would be blocking stuff up. So they wouldn't really be getting yellow cards because they wouldn't be seen as cynical fouls, but they would completely disrupt the rhythm of a game of football.
Tactical fouling, yeah.
They were really good at doing it high up the pitch, where referees are more cottoned onto it now, and those kind of fouls do tend to get yellow cards, but there's still ways around it. And this is a way around a thing. Would say, like, normally you would see a foul in that scenario, and normally those are fouls. But because the tactic has changed, because it's a new thing for referees to be dealing with as well as opponents, they're not really seeing, I don't think teams are. I think there was an occasion yesterday where he said Ireland could have gone down, and maybe teams in future will look at that and say, we'll go down a lot easier, or we'll find different ways of combating it. Because the way to get around it is going to be skullduggery from an opponent. It's not going to be, because it is an effective tactic when you've got strong 6-footers in the side. That is the observation that I've got on that. The fact that, you can plan for it in a different way, which I think now the teams will probably start doing.
Did the ref, whose name I forget because he's 12 years old, did he blow for a single foul that Arsenal created from any of those 13 corners?
No, but I'll tell you what else, and it wasn't a corner. Ugarte was booked for protesting on a foul that Saka did, and we never saw it. We never saw it, but it looked bad, and they never showed that on a replay, and I think they should have done, and not because I'm hounding for a player to get sent off, but it looked bad on first view, and there was a reason why he complained about it. So you didn't even show the replay of Ugarte getting booked. So what's the deal with that? I don't understand. I'm not suggesting any bias at all. I just think that's ridiculous, because if that had happened the other way around, 50 replays.
Yeah, well, maybe. I'm not too conspiratorial about these things, although Tyrone Malacia got booked for a perfectly good tackle, and Mikel Arteta jumped out onto the pitch with his tight little trousers, little balls. So squeaky fucking Lego hair. I have no respect for that man at all. Absolutely none.
Doesn't seem it.
He's dreadful. He's dreadful. Oh dear. All right, we've done enough moaning. I actually don't feel too bad about this. Like I thought we saw the seeds of something structurally. We got an identity there. I don't think we'll play this defensively or set up quite this defensively in 90% of the games. I was surprised a little bit that he went with those two sort of more defendery type defenders in wide areas, because when I'd seen Sporting at home to City, there weren't two attacking players in those, even playing quite defensively as they did.
Yeah.
They went with the two attacking players so they could spring out really quickly, and we didn't see any of that from United last night. So there's some things to improve on, but I see an identity and a structure there. I would like to see him kind of settle down on what he really wants his best team to look like at some point, not experiment too much through this December period, because if we lose to Arsenal Liverpool, City, Spurs, and then Arsenal again in these away games before the first week in January, then we're going to be feeling a bit more negative about things than this generally good vibe we've got with Ruben coming in. But that's the only quibbles, really. It's annoying to lose to Arsenal. Yeah. It's annoying to lose to anyone, but like these fucking Arsenal fans, like, get on my tits.
I can't share the optimism. The reason why is because we've got such a turgid away record in recent years that I'm definitely going to give the manager patience. I'm not getting on his back. Like, no one should think anything like that. I'm just sick of seeing as, all right, we can't accept losing to Arsenal and everything like that. But I'm sick of accepting that because we've seen it happen. We just lose all these games and we rarely pose a goal threat in any of them. And all right, that's not Amorim's fault, and he's still learning. But it is something, nonetheless, that we've seen for 3 years at least. I mean, even it's a post-Ferguson problem, really, that we're not proactive in these away games. It's a problem that was really started by Mourinho. Van Gaal had a fairly decent record in away games, and he went for wins. It was boring, but he went for wins, and we invariably got them because he had a good record. I think he won at Arsenal and at Liverpool, in both games at Liverpool, in fact, in the league. But Mourinho, when he came in, he sacrificed those big away games towards the end of the first season at Spurs and at Arsenal. I think he had a massive damaging effect on the mentality. So now we've got so many in a short space of time. You know what I mean? The goodwill, what you're talking about, does kind of evaporate in that space because there's so many big games and you want to be seeing something. That said, it is still the squad that he's inherited, and I'm not saying that in the respect that I'm going to get on his back, just that I would like to see something tangible to say, like, all right, there's a big result there that he's had his time, he's worked with some of the players, but now he's had an overview of the league, he's had an overview of the opposition, he can say, this is a game plan to win this game, and United actually look proactive in it. I don't think that's too much to ask as well. I think because the urgency with which the decision was made to sack the manager, relative urgency, and bring a new one in, I think that the standards are there. We've got to get Champions League football. That's what he was brought in to achieve. And partly to achieve that is winning games like this. So as much as I can understand not winning at Arsenal and losing in the way that we did, and I've no grumbles over it, well, I want to see better. I do want to see better.
Well, if all these tough away games coming up, if we get 0.25 XG or whatever it was last night, something like that, in all of them, I think it'll be fair to say, hey, it's not the right approach. Like, you can't win games on 0.25 XG. Not very often, unless you're Jose, who used to magically pull that off. Hey, I wanted to ask you your thoughts, because I'm not sure if I saw you post about the controversy around these rainbow laces tracksuits that were not worn. You're on Blue Sky as well, because the Blue Sky arena was perfectly civil about all of this. And then on Twitter, on every feed or post I posted about it, or Adam Crafton's piece from The Athletic, just an absolute torrent of homophobia, like 99% of it.
Yeah.
And that really made me quite depressed, honestly. I've had Howard from Rainbow Red Devils, the LGBTQ supporters group, on here a couple of times talking about the work they do, and they'd been working really close with the club to get these sort of rainbow tracksuits done, and it's a coordinated effort with the club and the players, and it's kind of thrown in the bin at the very last moment. Adam Crafton reported that it was Nusar Mazraoui who refused to wear it, and the rest of the players went along with him. And that's the story, and it was all very depressing, the kind of rampant absolute tidal wave.
Yeah.
And there'll be probably people listening to this going, good, great, I don't want this rainbow shit shoved down my throat, which is, I'm paraphrasing, about 90% of the replies. So I was very disappointed and kind of a bit despondent by the reaction from the Manchester United online community. How do you feel about that? Sorry to put you in a difficult position there, Wayne.
It's not really difficult in one respect, because, I mean, look, like, unequivocally, the campaign is a fantastic thing, and Adam He's a fantastic journalist doing his job. That's definitely newsworthy, and it's disappointing to see that Mazraoui didn't want to do that. The resultant action taken by United, now you can be disappointed about that. And I'm not here to defend United. I'm talking about a political issue that I've got. I'm not gay, and I'm not religious. I don't have any denomination in that respect. I'm completely sort of neutral in that respect. I'm not neutral in the sort of fight against homophobia. Obviously, I think it's ridiculous, and I think the heightened awareness and everything like that, brilliant. The campaigns are brilliant. What I would say, and this isn't a United issue, it's the different players, and most notably Muslim players, where this is really said, this isn't the first time it's happened. It's not the first season it's happened before. Yeah. What I think there needs to be some kind of better dialogue before these things happening, because I feel like people are being led down garden paths to villainize, not individuals, but weaponize a political argument. I hate saying that, but you know what I mean with terms of sexuality, the political argument. In terms of this discourse, it's kind of political, where it crosses over into social religion and stuff like that. So I think there ought to be, and I think that this episode is a really good case study for this, better dialogue before these campaigns are made, because it serves nobody any positive purpose at all for a player to be singled out. We don't know like any kind of religious beliefs or anything like that, so I don't want to go down that path. But also the propensity for an article like that to then engineer all this abuse that goes the way of either individual or either party in there, because the point is that it's meant to be celebrating inclusivity, right? The only thing that it does in a positive way is that it gives the conversation oxygen, so it brings it to light. So why is this a bad thing? You know what I mean? So it gives the opportunity for that kind of perspective. So I think that that's not bad in the perspective that it can be a healthy discourse to have to reach some kind of progress. But I don't think that's what we're talking about here, because I don't think that there's a standoff where the religious beliefs of the players are going to be broken down in a barrier way that's like, all right, this is progress. I don't think that that's what we're going to see in this generation, unfortunately. So how do we best approach that in a way that makes the statement a more healthy thing? Or maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is to ruffle the feathers.
Well, I kind of think it in part, right? So what is this, right? Why do we have a Rainbow Laces campaign or Pride Month? It's to recognize a group that is, generally speaking, marginalized in society. And there are different degrees to that. Now, I live in a city that is probably one of the most liberal in the world. There's Gay Pride Parade every year, and a bunch of blokes can walk down the street like naked, and like no one's going to care, right? And it's perfectly fine. And I also recognize my total privilege that there is no part of my life in which I am marginalized. None. Like exactly, I'm a white, I guess now I didn't grow up with a lot of money, but middle class, live in a nice neighborhood with a house. I'm tall. Like pick any attribute of my identity or life. No one's marginalizing me, right? So I totally recognize that. And I recognize also Mikel Mazraoui hasn't made a statement about this or anything. It's just been reported that there are many reasons why somebody of certain faiths might feel uncomfortable. Now, it might just be dogmatic sort of reading of the scripture, which is interpreted in different ways, right? By the way, I'm not a scholar of faith, so I can't like claim any expertise, and I'm not going to claim any expertise here. Or it might be a lack of comfort in, I don't know, his like national team environment, a family environment, or whatever. I don't know. He grew up in the Netherlands, which is also quite a liberal society. So I can't like ascribe anything to him. I was kind of more disappointed. I'm disappointed in that he couldn't just, it's not about promoting homosexuality. It's about recognizing a marginalized group and a fellow set
promoting
of humans.
Inclusivity.
And saying, hey, we're all different. We're all part of one big societal family, and at United we're a football club, and I was disappointed that he couldn't go, hey, this is not about me going, I'm not shoving some quote unquote something down your throat and going, hey, you gotta accept these rainbows. I honestly don't know why people are so scared of the fucking rainbow other than their blatant homophobia, right? Yeah. So I was disappointed from that level, right? I don't know the underlying details behind it and why he might have felt like this. So I can't ascribe anything there, right? But I'm just disappointed you can't go, okay, yeah, so what? It's a rainbow, right? But I think I'm maybe more disappointed in the group of players who kind of, I understand from a team bonding perspective, they've gone, okay, it's all for one and one for all, right? We're together, we're in this or we're not in this. And so I kind of understand it from that perspective, but I'm disappointed that they've effectively, it might not be what they wanted to achieve, but they've effectively gone, yeah, okay, we are not going to support this large marginalized group, gay and lesbian and trans people, because one person has said, I don't want to do it. All right. So I'm disappointed from that perspective. I'm not saying there's an easy solution to this because there really isn't. Well, on Twitter, I was like, we should just let the person who's got intolerant views stand up their own views. And that does create a virtual pylon, I guess, because you're picking out one person. But the alternative is you allow, and it appears to be that it was just one person in the group that said this. And some of the other players were not happy with this choice, according to the reporting. So we've let that one person derail part of the campaign, and that is now the story. So we create the division anyway, right?
Well, so maybe, I mean, there are two ways of looking at this as well. Again, this isn't, I'm in exactly the same position as you, although with no hair. So that's my one little privilege I don't have. That's a joke, by the way, everyone. The first of all is that the squad didn't have a visible representation of the campaign, but the club welcomed all the group that you mentioned, the Rainbow Devils. They were all welcome to the game and they're all on the pitch. A presentation was made beforehand. So a fuss was made. The campaign was present. It was there. Yeah. It was not visible in the way. The other thing I would say is we have become, as a society, more binary in the way that we view things. So something, and I much rather talk about Arsenal bastardizing corners, the corner routine than this, because I really, really don't want to offend. But the point I want to say with this is that we've reached a point in society where anything that doesn't look like it's showing support is automatically shown as opposing the cause. That's not always the case. Now, it is difficult to. I'm not saying that in this case that is the scenario, but that happens so often. And what happens is, because we don't know anything about Mazraoui's approach, because he hasn't come out and said that, we just have a very good inkling on it's to do with his faith and everything like that. It's the subsequent and consequent nonsense that you see, like I said, from the trolls online who sort of take what they don't know and put it onto what they do know and create a hostile environment for people. Now, I don't think in itself, that's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. But in engineering the debate of why this thing is necessary, that's not a bad thing. By the way, I'm not all justifying it. You know what I'm saying here. I know
what you're saying. Like the flood of trolls, absolute tidal wave of homophobia proved why you need these campaigns. Honestly, I was so disappointed about, like, just look under Adam's post, right? Or the Athletics post on his piece. It's a torrent of people going, great, give him a pay rise. Like, we don't need this. Like, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And that made me really disappointed that we just can't accept fellow humans, like, because they love somebody different than you. Like, what the fuck are we? Where are we at as a society? And I know it's a culture war, and lesbian, gay, and especially trans people are under massive attack at the moment. Like, it's become part of the culture war wedge to divide people, and social media exacerbates that completely because, especially on Twitter, the algorithm is tweaked to push engagement and hate, right? So it's very difficult to have any kind of discussion or debate in that environment because it's entirely designed to do that. That is not true of all social media, but most of them. is true. So I don't know. I was just very disappointed with that. I'm not saying there was an easy fix or an easy solution, although my temptation would have been just to go like, all right, okay, let the intolerant person explain their views. I want to be respectful of people's faith because there's many parts to faith. One is identity, that's very important to people, their identity, and you want to respect that and give people sort of self-determination. The other is a belief system. And I believe this thing, that's not that much different from political views, is it? And we're quite happy to challenge political views all the time, right?
Exactly.
So I'm happy to challenge the belief system part of it. I'm not saying I deny someone's identity at all. I want to make that clear. But I don't want to wear a rainbow armband because I think being gay is a sin. Can't get my head around that at all. I just think that's wrong, and I think it's okay to say I think that's wrong.
I'm 100% with you. I mean, you asked me an opinion on that. I'm thinking like my thought of the entire episode is that better dialogue is needed for next year. Not even next year, every single day, because it's not about. This is another thing as well, that we have days and we have weeks and we have months that are there to commemorate certain aspects of society, certain aspects of everything to do with our lives. And we're not restricted to days and weeks and months. It's every single day of our lives is this a battle that people are going through. So why not just like bring that consciousness into the conversation of that, into the domain, have that conversation all the time, every day.
Look, this stuff is important. And I know that, like, especially in the internet age, when it's easier to organize and easier for marginalized groups to have a voice, right? Certain people think they're under attack as a result of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially white men think they're under attack because black people have a bigger voice, gay people have a bigger voice, trans people can organize and demand rights, like Native America or indigenous people in Australia, right? Like, pick out all these bloody societies, and these cultural wars are happening because like smaller groups are saying, "Hey, we demand rights too," right? And it doesn't mean I haven't lost a single right, not a single one, right? And over the last 20 years, like not a single one, like and nobody who is middle-aged white bloke like me has lost any rights either. Like, they might feel like they have, but they have not. And so I think it's very important to raise the voices. I mean, recently we had Thanksgiving here in the US. It's a very odd holiday, which I can't quite get my head around, but it's celebrated widely, which is, I think, giving thanks that British people came in and wiped out all the natives. Feels like it anyway. And so in some states, not all, and you can imagine which ones, they now have the day after Thanksgiving is Indigenous Peoples Day or Native American Celebration Day, in order to balance that out a little bit. And it's kind of important, right? Because like the story of colonization of the United States is not a very nice one. And it involves the death of millions of people.
Yep.
And the stripping away of rights of those people as well. And probably there'll be some people in the comments go, "Well, that's 500 years of history you've distilled in 3 seconds there, Ed." And I was like, yes, it is true. I have done that. I can't help myself but address these things. And there'll be some people going, "Hey, why aren't you just talking about football?" I don't want politics coming to football. But, hey, politics are always in football.
Yeah.
Our owner, the Glazer family, do a lot of political fundraising, and so they do. Manchester City owned by a state, so are Newcastle and Paris Saint-Germain. Our other owner, Sir Jim, was a big proponent of Brexit. Like, politics is everywhere in sport. It's the most widely participated in activity. It's incredibly engaging, and that's why all these issues come to the fore, right?
I think a large audiences there.
Massive audience.
Which, like,
sport is politics. Politics is sport. You can't get away from that.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I'm not going to bring the tone up any, but it should mark the passing of 2 people connected with United this week. Kath Phipps, the legendary
secretary,
receptionist, more receptionist and secretary. She's been with the club since 1968. Sadly passed away today after a couple of weeks of really poor health. And Tony Young, who played 100 games or so for United in the 70s.
Saw that too, yeah.
He passed away. I mean, we're talking about, it tells you something that Kathy, people listening or watching this podcast will know more about Kathy than they do about Tony Young. That tells you what an impression that she made.
Oh, yeah.
Which it says a lot about, and that's not in denigration to Tony, by the way. I worked with a lot of people from the team that he played in. Tony was a recluse after leaving United, pretty much. I think there was a rumour that he went into the police, but he left United, and so no one ever spoke to him. They never knew where he was. The 70s players would meet up at the reunion dinners, and they'd be like, "Have you heard from Tony?" You know what I mean? Like, I can remember working with Brian Greenough for the first book that I did, and he was talking so much about Tony because there was a game in which they played together in the early 70s where they both scored in the last couple of minutes to rescue a draw against Chelsea, and he would always say, I want to see Tony again, but he couldn't get hold of him. I gather that his family were in touch with the club this week, so that was a good thing, that some dialogue was made there. But then you come on to Kathy, who, like, everyone knows is like a cult icon of the club. Really, she's been in documentaries. She was in the Beckham documentary before that was made last year or earlier this year. My perception of time's all gone. But it's just amazing to think of someone who didn't kick a ball for the club, but is so well renowned that people would know of it. You'd know, you've got the image of her in your head, and the someone who was universally loved. I can't think of why she wouldn't be anyway, but for someone to have that kind of longevity at the club, to be like one of the bonds of the history, and it's not just like Best, Law and Charlton and stuff like that. Someone who's been there since 68, someone who's been a supporter. She was 85 or something when she passed away. So someone who's been a supporter for all her life and seen so much, been through so much, and to be connected so strongly with the club, to lose someone like that. And then obviously there's more passing week by week, really, but it's just really sad. So,
yeah. No, good to mark that. Thanks for doing that. I also wanted to note Abdullah from the Stretford Paddock YouTube channel passed away. I didn't know him at all, aside from he was on the channel. But a lot of people wanted to express their love for him. He was obviously very well regarded there and so young as well. So I don't know the details about that, but mark his passing too. All right. What a run around the houses. I'm going to do a Forest preview with Tom, which will be...
Yeah, like the tone's gone so down with Wayne. You can't rescue it, even with like predicting a more cheery build-up.
It's like daytime TV, isn't it? There's been a massacre and 57 people have been shot, and now onto the weather. I'm sorry. Great. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to us talk about football and other stuff. We'll be back with you on Friday with a Forest preview, and we'll catch you then. Bye, Wayne. Thanks a lot.